Good evening and welcome back to 31 Horror Nights. It's October 14th and tonight's movie is Cube. We're gonna spend another day in Canada with this 1997 indie movie. I have heard both The Platform and Saw be compared to Cube, so naturally I'm very intrigued. Apparently, 7 people who have wildly different personalities and have never met before wake up in this weird cube-shaped room. And on all the other sides of this cube-shaped room is more cube-shaped rooms. And some of them have deadly traps in them. Their mission is to figure a way out of this alive. And apparently the rooms move around and there's Fibonacci prime numbers, all sorts of math stuff involved. This movie has a lot of things that interest me. I'm surprised I haven't seen it before. I'm gonna go watch it and let you know what I think. Okay, well played, Cube. I'm going to give this movie an 8 out of 10. Yes, that is a cubic number, and yes, that is a coincidence. To begin with, the way of saying that there are 7 people is kind of misleading, because one of them is literally the opening kill. The first scene of the movie is this guy dying, and the second one dies 5 minutes in, so really there's only 5. I do like the design of the rooms. The one room, every single room looks the same except for the different colors. It kind of makes me think of a music video from the 80s or 90s. This is a very concept-based movie. The entire film takes place in this cube. There is not any footage outside of it. Not even in the form of a flashback. The characters were kind of hit or miss. Levin, arguably the main character, I did like her. She's a student who I guess is studying mathematics because she's one of the reasons why they're able to navigate this cube. On every single of the little doorways that go from one cube to the other, there are three-digit numbers lined up. And she notices that in every single room they find that had a trap in it, one of those 3 numbers was prime. We also have a police officer named Quentin, a desk jockey with a pessimistic attitude named Worth, a doctor who's also a left-wing extremist named Holloway, and this neurodivergent guy whose depiction is unbelievably stereotypical. He just moves his hand around in weird fashions and mumbles to himself a lot. Anyway, the effects in this movie were very hit or miss. Whenever they did something practical, it looked amazing. The opening scene of that one guy getting killed, he goes into a room where it's a wire grid of razor wire, and it cuts him into little cubes, and that was an amazing effect. But there are other effects that use CGI and it just looks terrible. Anyway, nobody knows how they got into the cube, why they got put in the cube, who put them there, what the point of this all is. There's no information. All they can do is just hope that they can make it out. This premise carries pretty much the entire movie because they are able to do so much with it and it's so interesting. Contrasting to that, the characters are very hit or miss, and there were a couple of pretty long scenes of them arguing I really think that we could have done without. Though it is interesting to see these characters' personalities change as the movie continues. When put in a crisis, some of them become bad and some of them become better. But the real star of the show is the setting, this cube. I would say that this movie is comparable to Saw, except it's focusing on one trap and it puts all its resources into making it as intricate and interesting as possible. The characters aren't anything special, but the premise is enough to make up for that. It was a very interesting movie, and if you liked Saw, I would say check it out. Now I want to talk about a few spoilers. I talked about how the characters kind of show their true colors as the movie keeps going. Quentin started out as the everyman, the leader, the good guy, but as the movie kept going, he seemed to get more and more unhinged. It eventually gets to the point of kidnapping and attempted murder. Worth, on the other hand, started out as just sitting around complaining and acting pessimistic to everybody, but in the end he really stepped up and sort of helped out. I'd say that the first real twist in this movie is the fact that the rooms don't stay in place, they move around. They discover that because they keep going in what feels like one general direction and they end up in a room with a dead body they know about. Turns out there's all this bunch of math mumbo-jumbo, and I'm pretty well versed in math, but sometimes it just felt like they were just saying words, or that meme that was movies just say quantum over and over when they don't know how to explain a science thing. Apparently, there's only one exit out of this cube. There's there's like an inner cube and one room that like goes around as like a bridge to the one exit through the outer cube. And we know this because Worth reveals that he was one of the people commissioned to design it. He didn't know what it was for, he didn't know who he was working for, he just made the outer shell and went on with his life. And apparently, it's not whether the three numbers and the entrance to a room are prime, it's whether they're a power of a prime. And they get past this because Kazan, the neurodivergent guy, is a mathematical savant. You can give him any number and he'll be able to tell you how many prime factors it has. There's a point where Holloway is like rappelling down the side of the cube, the inner cube, on like a rope made out of clothes. And Quentin lets her die because she said some pretty nasty things to him earlier, but obviously that doesn't warrant killing someone. Quentin tries to just steal away Levin and her math brain and get out of it himself without the other two dragging him down, but that doesn't work. Everybody kind of turns against him, and they're able to ditch him. Eventually, they make it back to one of the very first rooms they were in, and the coordinates and the numbers in the doors tell them that that is the room that will connect to a bridge in one of the next, permutations of the cube. But right when it looks like Worth, Levin, and Kazan are gonna make it out, Quentin bursts in and kills Levin and Worth. He does get his comeuppance. He tries to make it out, but the room moves and cuts him in half. And then we're just left with Kazan. And they don't show anything outside the cube. It's just this white, bright void of nothingness. And you see him walk out of it and the movie ends. This is a very ambitious movie. It's a bold move to make a film that's entirely in one setting and it doesn't leave for anything. It has a very small cast of characters. It's like the bottle episode of a show, except there's no show around it and it's just one movie. And apparently that also sums up another movie I'm going to be watching later this month. And while it wasn't perfect, I think the cube worked pretty well. It was interesting, it was engaging, it was just a great concept, and for the most part, they made use of that concept. I thought it was pretty good. Alright, thank you for listening. I'll see you tomorrow.